Mobile wallets and new fintech are becoming more popular in the Philippines, especially among young users. Let's get the thoughts now of Jerome Wong, Everest Ventures Group co-founder and Chief Business Officer, joining us now from Hong Kong. Thank you so much for joining us, Jerome. How important is the e-wallet and gaming to a venture capitalist like Everest?
Yeah, so I think when we talk about e-wallets, it's all about financial inclusion. And definitely, I think Southeast Asia is one of the market that is like this financial inclusion theme is huge. Well, just taking Philippines as an example, it's the second largest country when it comes down to population, 110 million. And 70% of them is underbanked. And I guess when it comes down to e-wallets, right now, there will be lower barrier of entry, and then it's easier for people to access those e-wallets. It's easier to use, and I think it's growing a lot. And not to also mention is like the payment and also the remittance market, where I think Philippines there's a huge number of like overseas Filipino workers that also remit their salaries back to their home country, and plus there's a rising
Jerome,
demand of wallets.
So Jerome, I'd like to jump in here.
Yeah.
If you are so upbeat about the huge potential of the Philippines, 110 million people, millions of Filipinos underbanked, why have you not yet invested in the country?
Yeah, so it also comes back to my company. We are Web3 venture building studio. We are not like very fintech specific. Well, when it comes down to fintech at large, we are only focused on blockchain Web3. But definitely right now, we're also like looking more and more into that sector because we've seen like Ace Infinity and YGG, like these kind of gaming guilds, like back in 2021 during the pandemic, it has a huge growth when it comes down to these mobile gaming. And not to mention in Philippines, the mobile phone penetration rate is like more than 90%. And we think that going forward, there will be much more quality mobile games coming to the country. And definitely right now, we are looking to invest more into that.
And how soon will that be?
Yeah, so we are late. We are late to the game, I guess.
And how soon will that be? I mean, the Philippines needs financial muscle, particularly in financial technology. Develop the financial technology industry here in the Philippines. We need dollars and cents from foreign investors like yourself to develop it.
Yeah, so I guess, again, truthfully told, it's correct. So I also see that, in fact, there are increasing amount of venture capital firms entering Philippines. We've seen a lot of like Southeast Asia themed funds right now. They're raising funds or they've closed the fund and right now are deploying to this market. And definitely, again, Philippines they have the spotlight because, I mean, Indonesia is the biggest country when it comes down to population in Southeast Asia, and Philippines is pretty much the second. So I think that there would be just more and more increasing amount of capital flooding into the startup ecosystem in the Philippines.
Where are you investing right now in Southeast Asia?
We have invested in Vietnam, and we have also invested in Thailand. And right now, we're also looking into Philippines.
Okay, so if you're looking now into the Philippines, are there certain companies, are there certain startups that you are already studying or narrowing down the number of startups in fintech, e-wallets, mobile banking that Everest could invest in going forward?
Yeah, so I think, again, when it comes down to investments in Philippines, I think right now financial applications makes a lot of sense. And also like whatever mobile applications also makes a lot of sense. Specifically on Web3 side of things, we are looking into gaming. My company, we build games, we also invest a lot into Web3 games. And we think that the next era, when it comes down to GameFi 2.0, might be driven by a higher quality of games. So, and we understand that in Philippines, it's just a huge number of gamers playing it.
So Jerome,
the next cycle will be.
So Jerome, are you also hesitating a bit to invest in the Philippines because our ease of doing business is not at par like Singapore, Hong Kong, and Thailand and Vietnam? I mean, issues like graft and corruption are also issues here in the country. Is that why you're also hesitating to invest in the country and the bureaucracy?
I don't think that's well, again, from our perspective, we pretty much look globally when it comes down to investment. We don't have a specific geographical focus. So even for Southeast Asia, we think it's pretty interesting for us because, again, we see high exponential growth within the market. And to answer your question, we've seen, especially in the Web3 space, right? Virtual currency exchange was already issued by the central bank in Philippines. And in fact, Philippines central bank is very proactive and very transparent. It is one of the regulators, I think the second, Philippines and also Japan, central banks that have a more proactive approach when it comes down to like Web3 cryptocurrency regulation. So I think we have these regulations in place, and also not to mention, I'm based in Hong Kong. Right now, Hong Kong government is also pushing that front. So I think these regulators should be working pretty closely, and I think with that structure in place, we think that Philippines is definitely a pretty good market to invest in.
Thank you so much for joining us on The Final Word. Jerome Wong from Everest Ventures Group, joining us from Hong Kong.